We now move to the introduction of our keynote speaker, and this will be done by the Assistant Minister for Coast Guard Affairs, Ministry of National Defense, Honorable Rachel B. Kamara.
His Excellency Jeremiah Kwanku, Vice President of the Republic of Liberia, Mr. Tini Otara, Vice Prime Minister and Minister of Defense of the Republic of Cote d'Ivoire, the Speaker and members of the Honorable House of Representatives, the President pro tempore and members of the Honorable Liberian Senate, the Chief Justice and Associate Justices of the Supreme Court, the Dean and members of the Cabinet, the Doyen and members of the Diplomatic Corps, our international partners and collaborating security institutions, Brigadier General Geraldine J. George, retired, Minister of National Defense, officials and staff of the Ministry of National Defense, Major General Davison F. Fuller, Chief of Staff of the Armed Forces of Liberia, members of the Armed Forces of Liberia High Command, distinguished service order recipients, eminent citizens, officers and non-commissioned officers, members of the press, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. Today's keynote speaker is one of the Armed Forces of Liberia distinguished mentors who served during the formation of the new Armed Forces of Liberia. Our keynote speaker was born on 18 December 1971 in the Olama Borough local government area of Kogi State, Nigeria. He was commissioned into the Nigerian Army on 10 September 1989 as a member of the 41 regular course of the prestigious Nigerian Defense Academy. He rose through the ranks of the Armored Corps by merit, operational excellence, and distinguished service. As a consummate professional soldier and scholar, he has attended the full spectrum of tactical, operational, and strategic courses, including the National Defense Course, Senior Command and Staff Training in Nigeria and Ghana, and the Advanced Strategic Studies at the National Defense University in Washington, D.C. His academic qualifications include a bachelor's degree in mechanical engineering, master's degree in public administration, master's degree in security and strategic studies, and multiple postgrad degrees and diplomas in strategic and security studies. The distinguished general has held critical command, instructional and staff appointments, ranging from platoon and battalion command to chief instructor of the Nigerian Army Armor School, General Officer Commanding 7th Division, Theater Commander Joint Task Force Northeast, Operational Hedekai, among others. In these roles, he led complex counterinsurgency operations, oversaw the liberation of over 1,000 captives, facilitated the surrender of tens of thousands of insurgents, and contributed to the rescue of abducted Chibok schoolgirls, effort that significantly shaped Nigeria's internal security landscape. During the most critical milestone of the formation of the Armed Forces of Liberia, he served as military assistant to the command officer in charge of the Armed Forces of Liberia. a role that deepened the defense cooperation and led to the mentorship of 5 armed forces of Liberia retired and active generals who are currently serving as Minister of National Defense, Chief of Staff and Deputy Chief of Staff of the Armed Forces of Liberia, military advisor to the President, and Director of the National Security Agency. This role left a lasting professional imprint, underscored by his award of the Distinguished Service Order of Liberia. In recognition of his exceptional service, he has received numerous awards and honors, including the Forces Service Star, Meritorious Service Star, Distinguished Service Star, Grand Service Star, Distinguished Order of Liberia, Past Staff Course, Fellow Defense College Dagger, Fellow National Defense University USA, Command Medal, Field Command Medal, Field Command Medal of Honor, Nigerian Army Outstanding Operational Command Medal, Nigerian Army Purple Hearts, General Operational Medal, and Nigerian Army Medal. The distinguished gentleman is happily married, and the union is blessed with 2 children. Appointed Chief of Army Staff on 24 October 2025 by President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, the great general embodies strategic leadership, operational resolve, and a steadfast commitment to regional peace and security. Excellencies, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, please stand along with me as I humbly welcome to the podium our distinguished keynote speaker, the General's General, the 25th Chief of Army Staff of the Nigerian Army, Lieutenant General Wadi Shaibu, Nigerian Army Medal.
Thank you very much, Maro. Your Excellency, Joseph Newman Boakai Sr., President of the Republic of Liberia and Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces of Liberia. Your Excellency, the Vice President of the Republic of Liberia. Your Excellency, the former President, Republic of Liberia, Madam Johnson Sirleaf, the Honorable Speaker and distinguished members of the legislature, the Honorable Chief Justice and members of the judiciary, Honorable Tene Ouattara, Vice Prime Minister and Minister of Defense of the Republic of Cote d'Ivoire, the Honorable Minister of National Defense of the Republic of Liberia, the Chief of Staff Armed Forces of Liberia and the Military High Command, members of the Cabinet and heads of government agencies, Excellencies, members of the Diplomatic and Consular Corps, distinguished veterans of the Armed Forces of Liberia, officers, non-commissioned officers, and listed personnel of the Armed Forces of Liberia, distinguished guests and members of the press, ladies and gentlemen. It is indeed an honor and a profound homecoming for me to be here today in this unique and resilient city of Monrovia, Liberia. This land has played a significant part in the journey of my service to the Federal Republic of Nigeria and the African continent. I feel a deep sense of nostalgia standing among comrades and friends with whom I share a profound connection. It is indeed a moment of joy to see the then young and vibrant officers who began to mentor in 2007 take charge of the defense and security sector of the Republic of Liberia. Though my duties have taken me to other realms, I have never truly left you. This is apparent as I have been in touch with a number of senior officers seated here today. I must say that it is certainly delightful to see the armed forces of Liberia serving as a force for good. On behalf of all officers and soldiers of the Nigerian Army, and indeed the entire armed forces of Nigeria, I bring you fraternal greetings and heartfelt congratulations. May I humbly congratulate the President and Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces of Nigeria for a successful 69th Armed Forces Day celebration. Thank you. I also extend my heartfelt gratitude to the organizers, the Ministry of National Defense, and Headquarters Armed Forces of Liberia for finding me worthy as the guest speaker for this auspicious event. It is important to recall that the 11th day of February stands as a solemn reminder of the sacrifices, the courage, and the unwavering commitment of generations of Liberian service personnel who have sworn an oath to defend the sovereignty and the territorial integrity of this great nation. As we celebrate the 69th anniversary, we honor the sacrifices of the past and look forward with hope to secure a secure and prosperous future. Monrovia and the entire Liberia holds a deep personal meaning to me. I served here as a military assistant to the commander in charge of the Armed Forces of Liberia between 2007 and 2012. Within this period, we commenced the foundation of what is now the new Armed Forces of Liberia. Despite some challenges, weakness, we persevered. As my boss, late Major General S.A. Abdurrahman fondly puts it then, we are building an aircraft in flight. I make bold to say that these aircraft have been significantly built. Today, the Armed Forces of Liberia is a highly motivated and structured force. I firmly believe that the leadership of the Armed Forces of Liberia are not resting on their oars in their contributions to nation building as a continuously, painstakingly and tireless endeavor. Given the efforts of the diverse stakeholders to restructure the force, I therefore acknowledge the invaluable contributions of the governments of the United States, the United Kingdom, Sierra Leone, Ghana, the Republic of Benin, and my own dear country, Nigeria, whose sustained commitment has been instrumental to Liberia's recovery, rehabilitation, reconciliation, and long-term stability. Through their collective support to peace enforcement and peace-building initiative, these partners have significantly contributed to the restoration of Liberia's socio-economic and political development. The Armed Forces of Liberia stands as a shining example of what international collaboration and regional cooperation stands to achieve. The relationship between the Federal Republic of Nigeria and the Republic of Liberia is one forged in shared history of mutual sacrifice. Our military ties in particular are deep-rooted. Nigeria's commitment to Liberia's peace and stability during the Economic Community of West African Monetary Group years remain a cornerstone of our foreign policy and a shining example of African brotherhood. We stood together during the most challenging times, and today we stand together in celebration and collaboration. The transformation of the Armed Forces of Liberia into a force for good is a journey that Nigeria has been proud to support through training, mentorship, strategic partnership, and recently in advisory capacity. The bond is unbreakable, and our presence here today reaffirms our commitment to the security of the West African sub-region. This year's theme, Securing Liberia Together, Strengthening Interagency Cooperation Against Drug Trafficking and Emerging Security Threats, is both timely and critical. In the contemporary security environment, no single agency, no matter how well equipped, can counter security threats alone. Contemporary security threats are symmetrical, transnational, increasingly complex, and largely executed by non-state actors who exploit governance gaps and socio-economic vulnerabilities. In particular, drug trafficking has evolved beyond a law enforcement concern to become a significant national and regional security threat. The proliferation of illicit substances, particularly the devastating impact of synthetic drugs, pose a grave danger to our youths, undermine social cohesion, weaken economies, and in the same context, fuel organized crime and violent extremism. Addressing these challenges required robust interagency cooperation, shared intelligence, effective coordination, and strong legal frameworks capable of dismounting trafficking networks at all levels. Beyond the narcotic challenge, emerging threats continue to reshape global and African security landscape. In Africa, for instance, there is an alarming growth in cyber crimes, while non-state actors influence intrastate conflicts. The potential targets are critical infrastructure, financial systems, and military potency, among others. Furthermore, maritime security remains a concern as the Gulf of Guinea continues to face challenges ranging from piracy and unregulated fishing. As a littoral state, Liberia is not insulated from these threats. Securing Liberia therefore demands forward-looking strategies, technological innovations, regional cooperations, and timely intelligence sharing to stay ahead of evolving threats. In Nigeria, we have learned that the whole of government and whole of society approach is the most efficient approach to achieving lasting peace. Our joint task force involves the Army, the Navy, the Air Force, the police, and paramilitary agencies working under a joint task force. This synergy has significantly addressed duplication of efforts while maximizing our collective efforts. Accordingly, I urge the leadership of the Armed Forces of Liberia and all security stakeholders in Liberia to continuously foster a culture of cooperation. To the gallant officers and soldiers of the Armed Forces of Liberia, you are indeed the guardians of peace. Your professionalism, discipline, and loyalty are the bedrocks of Liberia's democracy. As you celebrate today, remember that the citizens are looking up to you for protection and inspiration. Remain the force for good that you are known to be. Wear your uniforms with pride and also with humility that comes from serving a cause greater than oneself. At this juncture, let me reiterate that Nigeria, under the able leadership of President Ahmed Bola Tinubu, Grand Commander of the Federal Republic, remains a steadfast partner to Liberia. We will continue to support your efforts in capacity building, regional security initiative, and the pursuit of a drug-free as well as a secure environment for all. Once again, I congratulate the Commander-in-Chief and the leadership of the Armed Forces of Liberia and the good people of Liberia on this 69th Armed Forces Day. May the Armed Forces of Liberia continue to grow in strength, professionalism, and honor in service of national stability and regional peace. Long live the Republic of Liberia. Long live the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Long live the bond of friendship between our two nations. Thank you all, and God bless you all.
Please be seated. Next is the presentation of Chief of Staff Commendation Award. The Chief of Staff, Armed Forces of Liberia, will be joined by Major General Paul Rogers, Adjutant General of the Michigan National Guard, who will also present the Michigan Adjutant General's Award of Excellence. At this time, Major Milton Guyan will read the citation for the award.
Thank you. Inaugural Chief of Staff Commendation Award. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, in line with the Chief of Staff intent to promote excellence, professionalism, and merit within the Armed Forces of Liberia, a formal commendation framework has been instituted to recognize officers and soldiers whose service reflects the highest standards of the profession. It is my honor to announce the inaugural Chief of Staff Commendation Award. This award recognizes carefully selected personnel whose performance, discipline, leadership, and devotion to duty have been exemplary and whose conduct reflect the core values of the Armed Forces of Liberia. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, the recipients of this award were identified through command channels and a transparent merit-based process with final approval granted by the Chief of Staff himself. Their sustained excellence, operational impact distinguished them amongst their peers. This commendation is hereby institutionalized as an annual Chief of Staff award, ensuring that outstanding service and professional distinction are consistently recognized across the Armed Forces of Liberia. May I now respectfully invite the Chief of Staff of the Armed Forces of Liberia, Major General Davidson Fuller, to please step forward to present the award. He was to be accompanied by Major General Paul Rogers of the Michigan National Guard. Also, the Command Sergeant Major, or the First Sergeant Major of the Armed Forces of Liberia, William F. Tabolo, and the Command Sergeant Major, William Rossa, from the Michigan National Guard. The recipients of today's award are Clerk Coley Abeta, a Major, a Commander of the Medical Command. Albert Dixon C., Lieutenant Commander, Acting Executive Officer from the Liberian Coast Guard. Hodges Abraham, First Lieutenant, the Commander Operation Restore Hope at the Sapper National Park, who is absent today. He is from the 23rd Infantry Brigade. Davis Victor D., Master Sergeant, Chief Trumpeter from the band unit. Kamara Morris G., Master Sergeant, Non-Commissioned Officer in Charge, Plans and Policy, Sir at Headquarters, Armed Forces of Liberia. Tama Joseph, Staff Sergeant, Mason Section Head, Facility Platoon from the Logistic Command. Puyo Sayala, Staff Sergeant, Senior Combat Engineer Instructor from the 21st Engineering Battalion. Siako Jeremiah T., Staff Sergeant, Non-Commissioned Officer in Charge at the Rawa International Airport, the Military Police Detachment from the Military Police Company. Elisa Prince, Staff Sergeant, Non-Commissioned Officer in Charge of Admin Section at the 2nd Battalion Headquarters Company from the 23rd Infantry Brigade. Wonan Emmanuel, Corporal, an Administrative Clerk from the Armed Forces Training Command. Sherway Lavecti, a private, a mess attendant from the Armed Forces Training Command. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, please join me in congratulating the recipients of the inaugural Chief of Staff Commendation Award, whose exemplary service, professionalism, and dedication continue to inspire excellence across the Armed Forces of Liberia. May I now transition to the Distinguished Service Order. Citation for Distinguished Service Order. Mr. Tianin Birahim Ouattara is the Vice Prime Minister, Minister of Defense of the Republic of Cote d'Ivoire. Before ascending to this position, he served as Minister of State and Minister of Defense for the Republic of Cote d'Ivoire, beginning 6 April 2021, with responsibility to formulating and implementing national defense policy. In this role, he provides strategic leadership and oversight of the country's defense and security institutions, contributing to national stability and regional security cooperation. Before his current appointment, Mr. Ouattara held several senior positions within the presidency of the Republic. In May 2011, he was appointed Director of Administrative and Financial Affairs at the presidency. In February 2012, he was named Minister of Presidential Affairs, where he played an important role in the coordination of executive functions and state administration. He is a prominent political figure and a member of a political council of Rally of Harfoutists for Democracy and Peace. Before entering high-level public service, Mr. Ouattara distinguished himself in the financial and corporate sectors as a banker by profession. He began his career at Société Générale Bank in the Cote d'Ivoire in 1982. In 2000, he was appointed Director General of the Trading and Management Company. And in 2003, he became Chairman, Chief Executive Officer of the International Institute for Africa. Mr. Tianin Birahim Ouattara holds honorary doctorate from the International University of Agadir. In recognition of his service to the nation and international cooperation, he has been awarded the rank of Grand Officer of the National Order of the Republic of Cote d'Ivoire and is a Commander of the Legion of Honor of the French Republic. Now, therefore, in recognition of his distinguished service, outstanding leadership, and enduring contributions to national defense, public administration, and international cooperation, I, Joseph Nyima Boakai, Senior, President of the Republic of Liberia, Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces of Liberia, do hereby decorate and confer the Distinguished Service Order to Mr. Tianin Birahim Ouattara, Vice Prime Minister, Minister of Defense of the Republic of Cote d'Ivoire. Your leadership, integrity, and commitment to public service bring great credit upon yourself, your family, your country, and the Armed Forces of Liberia. Given this 11th day of February 2026. Yes, sir. Citation for Distinguished Service Order. Major General Paul D. Rogers, a distinguished officer of the Michigan National Guard, has rendered exceptionally meritorious service to the Republic of Liberia through exemplary leadership, strategic vision, and sustained commitment to international military cooperation during his tenure as Adjutant General of the Michigan National Guard since 2019. In this capacity, he commanded over 11,000 soldiers and airmen, providing decisive leadership that significantly strengthened defense relations between the United States of America and the Republic of Liberia. Major General Rogers championed and expanded a partnership program between the Michigan National Guard and the Armed Forces of Liberia, established in 2009. Under his leadership, the partnership grew in scope and impact, delivering over 100 training and professional exchanges in Liberia and Michigan. And these engagements were carefully aligned with Liberia's defense priorities and institutional development, directly enhancing operational readiness, leadership development, and force professionalization. His leadership produced enduring outcomes for the Armed Forces of Liberia, including Liberia's participation in Exercise Northern Strike in 2021, improve pre-deployment readiness for peacekeeping operations, support the 14th Military Hospital, and sustain development of the non-commissioned officer corps. The exchanges also strengthen capacity in legal services, chaplaincy, public affairs, intelligence, communications, maritime security, and human resources. Through steadfast dedication and partnership, Major General Rogers transformed the Mexican and Liberia relationship into a resilient and enduring bond that has significantly advanced the effectiveness and long-term sustainability of the armed forces of Liberia. Now, therefore, in recognition of his extraordinary service, enormous contributions, and untiring dedication to military excellence and international partnership, I, Jose Nyimambuakai Sinan, President of the Republic of Liberia and Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces of Liberia, do hereby decorate and confer the Distinguished Service Order to Major General Paul D. Rogers. Your exemplary service to international military cooperation is a source of immeasurable pride and reflects distinct credit upon yourself, your family, your country, and the armed forces of Liberia, given this 11th day of February 2026. The next person to go is Brigadier General Mohammed Sanin Usman. Citation for Distinguished Service Order. Brigadier General Mohammed Sani Usman of the Armed Forces of the Federal Republic of Nigeria rendered exceptionally distinguished and meritorious service to the Republic of Liberia through exemplary leadership, strategic guidance, and unwavering dedication to the development and professionalization of the Armed Forces of Liberia. His tenure as Senior ECOWAS Military Advisor and Team Leader of the ECOWAS Advisory 2010 from the 1st October 2018 to the 4th September 2020 was marked by outstanding commitment to defense institution building and regional military cooperation. Brigadier General Mohammed Sanin Usman is highly accomplished senior officer of the Nigerian Army who has extensive academic and professional training in international affairs and strategic studies. He has completed key professional military courses, including the Staff College, War College, the National Defense College, and has held important command, instructional, and staff appointments. Notably, he served as the commandant of the Joint Training Institution and directing staff at the Armed Forces Command and Staff College and the National Defense College of Nigeria. During his tour of duty in Liberia, Brigadier General Usman provided strategic advice to the Armed Forces of Liberia High Command, contributing significantly to the formulation and review of key defense personnel and governance frameworks. His guidance was instrumental in the development of critical regulations, including pension and gratuity, court-martial, and gender policy, thereby strengthening institutional accountability and professional standards within the Armed Forces of Liberia. Brigadier General Mohammed Sanin Usman further distinguished himself by supervising comprehensive training evaluation across the Armed Forces of Liberia units and formations to assess operational readiness against contemporary threats. He led the planning and execution of the Joint Internal Security Exercise Watch Over 6. His professionalism, strategic insight, and devotion to duty significantly strengthened the effectiveness and institutional growth of the Armed Forces of Liberia. Now, therefore, in recognition of his extraordinary service, invaluable contributions, and unwavering commitment to the peace, security, and defense development of the Republic of Liberia, I, Jose Nyimambuakai, the Senior, President of the Republic of Liberia, Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces of Liberia, do hereby decorate and confer the Distinguished Service Order to Brigadier General Mohammed Sanin Usman. Your service stands as a lasting testament to international military cooperation and reflects distinct credit upon yourself, your family, your country, and the Armed Forces of Liberia, given this 11th day of February 2026. The next senior and very senior officer to be called is Brigadier General Uwocho Nimbede Ejika. Citation for Distinguished Service Order. Brigadier General Uwocho Nimbede Ejika, a distinguished officer of the Nigerian Army, has run exceptional service marked by outstanding leadership, strategic foresight, and unwavering dedication to regional peace and security throughout his accomplished military career. Commissioned into the Nigerian Army in 2001, Brigadier General Ejika has held numerous command and staff appointments in and out of Nigeria. He has attended several prestigious military and civil courses, including Commanding Officer course, Senior Staff course, Army War College course, as well as Higher Defense Strategic Defense course at the Nigerian Defense College. He holds 3 postgraduate degrees in International Affairs and Strategic Studies, Risk and Disaster Management, and Strategic Studies. His operational experience includes participation in Operation Harmony, Operation Zama Lafia, and the United Nations African Union Mission in Darfur, UNIME, where he consistently demonstrated professionalism, sound judgment, and commitment to mission success. In recognition of his exemplary service, he has been awarded numerous decorations, including the Meritorious Service Star, General Operations Medal, and Past Staff Course Dakar. Of particular significance to the Republic of Liberia, Brigadier General Ejika served with distinction as Senior Advisor with the ECOWAS Advisory Training Team to the Armed Forces of Liberia from September 2020 to September 2022. During this period, he provided invaluable advisory support on staff and policy matters, led the formulation of key institutional policy, including Military Rating Manual, Draft Pension and Gratuity Act, and contributed to the new National Defense Act. He also successfully coordinated exercise Overwatch in November 2021 and made lasting contributions to manpower development, training, and recruitment support, thereby significantly enhancing the professionalism and institutional capacity of the Armed Forces of Liberia. Now, therefore, in recognition of his extraordinary service, exemplary leadership, and enduring contribution to the development and professionalism of the Armed Forces of Liberia, I, Jose Nyiman Boakai, Senior, President of the Republic of Liberia and Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces of Liberia, do hereby decorate and confer a Distinguished Service Order to Brigadier General Owuchu Nimbe Ejika. Your exemplary service to international military cooperation and security sector development reflects great credit upon yourself, your family, the Nigerian Army, the Economic Community of West African States, and the Armed Forces of Liberia, given this 11th day of February 2026. The next officer to follow shortly is Colonel Eric Igbesi Kwesi Akafia. Citation for Distinguished Service Order. Colonel Eric Igbesi Kwesi Akafia, an outstanding officer of the Ghana Armed Forces with nearly 3 decades of military service, has rendered exceptionally and meritorious service to the Republic of Liberia through distinguished leadership, strategic advisory support, and unwavering commitment to regional peace and security. Commissioned into the Armed Corps in August 1998, Colonel Akafia has served for over 27 years, holding key operational, command, institutional, and strategic appointments across Africa and the Middle East. His career is marked by operational excellence, intellectual depth, and professional diplomacy at national, regional, and international levels. Of particular significance to Liberia, Colonel Akafia served with distinction as Deputy Senior ECOWAS Military Advisor to the Armed Forces of Liberia from 2019 to 2022, and earlier as a senior officer with the United Nations Mission in Liberia, UNMIL. In this role, he contributed decisively to the post-conflict rebuilding and professionalization of the Armed Forces of Liberia. His efforts included contribution to the development of the national defense and security policy, review of key defense legislation and regulations, strengthening of interagency coordination, and the training and monitoring of Armed Forces of Liberia officers and commanders. Through his contributions to United Nations peacekeeping operations, support to Liberia transition from peacekeeping to national security self-reliance, senior command and staff appointments within the Ghana Armed Forces, and scholarly work of African security and civil military relations, Colonel Akafia has brought great credit upon himself, the Ghana Armed Forces, ECOWAS, and the Republic of Liberia. Now, therefore, in recognition of his distinguished service, exceptional leadership, and invaluable contributions to the peace, security, and institutional development of the Republic of Liberia, I, Jose Newman Bakai, Senior, President of the Republic of Liberia, and Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces of Liberia, do hereby decorate and confer the Distinguished Service Order to Colonel Eric Igbesi Kwesi Akafia. Your exemplary service stands as a lasting symbol of international military cooperation and steadfast dedication to Liberia's peace and security, reflecting distinct credit upon yourself, your family, your country, and the Armed Forces of Liberia, given this 11th day of February 2026. The next to follow is Lieutenant Colonel Yusufu Sanko. Citation for Distinguished Service Order. Lieutenant Colonel Yusufu Sanko, a distinguished officer of the Sierra Leonean Armed Forces, ASLAF, rendered exceptionally meritorious service to the Republic of Liberia through steadfast dedication, professional excellence, and unwavering commitment to peace, security sector reform, and post-conflict stabilization over a long and honorable military career. He was commissioned into the Republic of Sierra Leone Armed Forces on the 2nd July 2005 at the Armed Forces Training Center, Benguman, Freetown. Lieutenant Colonel Sako held a wide range of command, instructional, intelligence, and staff appointments. Over the course of his career, he has completed numerous military courses, locally and internationally. Some of the international courses are Operational Civil Military Cooperation Course, Humanitarian Peace Support School, in Bakisa, Kenya. He has further enhanced his expertise in counterterrorism and intelligence by completing terrorism studies at the Navy Postgraduate School in Monterey, California, USA. Lieutenant Colonel Sanko was seconded to the Armed Forces of Liberia as a member of the ECOWAS Advisory Training Team during the critical post-conflict restructuring of the Liberia military. Serving as a mentor and advisor, he provided invaluable guidance on training, organization, doctrine, and institutional reform of the Armed Forces of Liberia. His efforts contributed directly to strengthening a professional and disciplined Armed Forces of Liberia. Lieutenant Colonel Yusufu Sanko has also served with the first batch of Sierra Leone Sector Reconnaissance Company to Unime, Sudan. His professionalism and dedication brought lasting credit to himself, the Sierra Leonean Armed Forces, and the Republic of Liberia. Now, therefore, in recognition of his distinguished service, enduring commitment, and invaluable contribution to the peace and security of the Republic of Liberia, I, Jose Newman Wakai, Senior, President of the Republic of Liberia and Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces of Liberia, do hereby decorate and confer the distinct service order to Lieutenant Colonel Yusuf Sanko. Your service stands as a lasting testament to international military cooperation and reflects distinct credit upon yourself, your family, your country, and the Armed Forces of Liberia, given this 11th day of February 2026. Now to Lieutenant Colonel Mohamed Abubakar. Citation for Distinguished Service Order. Lieutenant Colonel Mohamed Abubakar Siddiq, retired, a distinguished officer of the Ghana Armed Forces, rendered exceptionally meritorious service to the Republic of Liberia through steadfast dedication, professional excellence, and unwavering commitment to peace, security sector reform, and post-conflict civilization over a long and honorable military career. Enlisted into the Ghana Armed Forces in October 1981 and commissioned into the Ghana Artillery Corps in June 1983, Lieutenant Colonel Siddiq completed 37 years of faithful service. He held a wide range of command, instructional, intelligence, and staff appointment, culminating in service at the Department of Army Intelligence and Planning at the Army Headquarters. As Directing Staff and later Chief Instructor at the Army Combat Training School, he made significant contributions to the professional training of officers and soldiers of the Ghanaian Armed Forces. Lieutenant Colonel Siddiq was seconded to the Armed Forces of Liberia as a member of the ECOWAS Advisory Training Team from 2012 to 2015 during the critical post-conflict restructuring of the Liberian military. Serving as a mentor and advisor, he provided invaluable guidance on training, organization, doctrine, and institutional reform of the Armed Forces of Liberia. His efforts contributed directly to strengthening a professional, disciplined, and apolitical Armed Forces of Liberia. Lieutenant Colonel Siddiq also distinguished himself through multiple peace support missions in Liberia and the sub-region as a battery commander with ECOMOG during operations in Monrovia from 1990 to 1991, and later through a service with UNMIL. He ensured effective coordination with national security institutions and the protection of personnel and critical infrastructure. His professionalism and dedication brought lasting credit to himself, the Ghana Armed Forces, and the Republic of Liberia. Now, therefore, in recognition of his distinct service, enduring commitment, and invaluable contributions to the peace and security of the Republic of Liberia, I, Jose Newman Boakai, Sr., President of the Republic of Liberia and Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces of Liberia, do hereby decorate and confer a distinguished service order to Lieutenant Colonel Mohammed Abubakar Siddiq, retired. Your service stands as a lasting testament to international military cooperation and reflects distinct credit upon yourself, your family, your country, and the Armed Forces of Liberia, given this 11th day of February 2026. And next to follow is Mr. David K. Vington. Citation for distinguished service order. Mr. David K. Vington, a distinguished Ladies and gentlemen, the fact that the honoree is absent, we have come to the end of the citation for distinguished service order. Thank you very much. I'm Major Bunyan Milton Bunyan, the Executive Officer of the 1st Armored Battalion.
I now respectfully invite the Honorable Minister of National Defense, Brigadier General Geraldine George, retired, to mount the podium to make a statement.
Your Excellency, the President of the Republic of Liberia and Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces of Liberia, Mr. Vice President, the Honorable Speaker and members of the National Legislature, the Honorable Chief Justice and Associate Justices of the Supreme Court, to you and the members of the Cabinet, His Excellency Honorable Teni Birahman Ouattara, Vice Prime Minister, Minister of National Defense, Republic of Cote d'Ivoire, Madam Ellen Johnson Sirleaf, former President, Republic of Liberia, our keynote speaker, Lieutenant General Wadi Shaibu, Chief of Staff of the Nigerian Armed Forces and his delegation, Commodore L.K. Chapatier, Chief of Navy Staff, Sierra Leone Armed Forces and his delegation, the Chief of Staff and the High Command of the Armed Forces of Liberia, member of the Diplomatic and Council Corps, Major General Paul Rogers, Adjutant General of the Michigan National Guard, General Thomas D. Wahusser and his delegation, members of Capstone, head of security institutions and distinguished relations and traditional leaders, veterans of the Armed Forces of Liberia, officers, non-commissioned officers, enlisted personnel of the Armed Forces of Liberia, members of the Fourth Estate, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. As we assemble as a grateful nation to commemorate Liberia's 69th Armed Forces Day, a solemn and proud occasion dedicated to honoring the courage, sacrifice, and professionalism of the men and women who defend our sovereignty, uphold our Constitution, and safeguard the peace and stability of our republic. On behalf of the Ministry of National Defense and the Armed Forces of Liberia, I extend my profound appreciation to His Excellency Joseph Yuma Brega, President of the Republic of Liberia and Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces of Liberia. Mr. President, your resolute leadership, strategic vision, and unwavering commitment to democratic surveillance oversight continue to guide the Armed Forces of Liberia as it grows into a disciplined, professional, and national respected institution. Today, we honor the memory of our fallen heroes, men and women whose ultimate sacrifice secured the survival of our continuity of our nation. The courage formed the moral foundation upon which today's Armed Forces proudly stands. We also recognize our veterans who steadfast service through difficult chapters of our history laid the groundwork for peace, reconciliation, and institutional renewal. Liberia remains eternally grateful. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, while our nation continues to enjoy relatively peace and stability, the region and global security landscape remains complex. Transnational crime, terrorism, illicit arms trafficking, cyber threats, and the spillover effect of regional instability demand vigilance, preparedness, and professionalism. In response, the Armed Forces of Liberia remain steadfast in its constitutional mandate to defend our territorial integrity, support surveillance authorities when lawful required, and contribute to regional and international peace and security. Over the past years, the Armed Forces of Liberia has strengthened operational readiness, upheld discipline and professionalism, expanded civil-military cooperation, advanced institutional development, and supported democratic government and the rule of law. This achievement reaffirms that Liberia's soldiers remain apolitical, professional, and loyal to the Constitution. Distinguished guests, 2025 was a year of steady and measurable progress. The Ministry of National Defense prioritized troop welfare, institutional governance, accountability, and the completion of key security sector reform and civil military training. These efforts contributed to strong national performance rating under the government's performance management and compliance system. Through budgetary support, the Ministry completed renovation works at Camp Grant, Camp Jones, and Camp Wisner, while with works at the EBK, works at the Barclay Training Center nearing completion. Renovating all military barracks across the country will improve living conditions, morale, and operational readiness. Caring for our troops is essential to national security. The ministry will continue to ensure timely payment of pensions and gratuity to retired personnel. Reaffirming our commitment to the welfare of those who have served. This sustained effort restore dignity and honor a long life dedicated service. Your Excellency, distinguished guests, over the period in review, the Armed Forces of Liberia activated the 1st Armored Reconnaissance Battalion, a signal company, and the agriculture company, all of which have undertaken activities to establish operational readiness. Mr. President, the agriculture company have completed its first harvest of 125 bags of rice. An important step forward for food security and military self-sufficiency. The Liberian Coast Guard has extended maritime patrols up to 200 nautical miles offshore through collaboration with MVC Shepherd, enhancing maritime security and protecting natural resources. The 14th Military has expanded its service delivery through digital systems, new equipment, and enhanced specialized care. The establishment of a health information management system has strengthened accountability and improved healthcare outcomes. Collectively, these achievements reflect tangible progress towards national defense objectives under your leadership, sir. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, during the period under review, the Ministry of National Defense achieved a major institutional milestone with the launch of the Ministry's Strategic Plan 2026 to 2030 on January 16, 2026. The plan provides a clear roadmap for defense modernization, professional military education, strengthened surveillance oversight, sustained logistics, and enhanced civil military relations. Your Excellency, distinguished guests, it is important to also note that in collaboration with UN Women, the Ministry of National Defense and the Armed Forces of Liberia have secured and launched the ELSA Initiative Fund Project in the amount of $663,791 United States dollars and 81 cents, which have been approved and launched. These 2 years, the 2 years project will target support for national recruitment drive through gender-sensitive awareness and to increase the female percentage from 7% to 20%. Mr. President, I am also pleased to report that ECOWAS through WAHU has approved $300,000 United States dollars to construct the first military mental health wellness center in our region. That will be located at the 14th Military Hospital. The Ministry of National Defense remains committed to sustained reform, focusing on modernization, troop welfare, leadership development, gender inclusion, and accountability. These pillars are essential to maintaining a credible and professional armed forces. We remain deeply grateful to our national, regional, and international partners for their continuous support. Your contributions to training, mentoring, and capacity building continue to improve our defense sector. To the officers, men and women of the Armed Forces of Liberia, remain loyal to the Constitution, obedience to lawful surveillance authority, respect for human rights, and committed to the highest standard of discipline and professionalism. You are guardians of our sovereignty and ambassadors of our nation's unity. Today is our Armed Forces Day, a moment for all Liberians to express gratitude, admiration, and unwavering support for all the men and women who have answered the noble call to service across our land, along our coastal, and beyond our borders. AFL personnel stands watch, defending our sovereignty, protecting our communities, and contributing to regional and global peace. Equally deserving of our gratitude are our military families, whose sacrifice often go unseen. Your strength sustain our armed forces and strengthen our nation. We say thank you to the military family. So every soldier, sailor, and airman proudly serving the Republic of Liberia, thank you for your service. Thank you for your sacrifices. The nation is proud of you and we remain forever grateful. As we commemorate this 69th Armed Forces Day, let us renew our collective commitment to unity, patriotism, and peace. Let us honor our past, strengthen our presence, and secure our future. God bless the Armed Forces of Liberia. God bless the Republic of Liberia. Thank you.
The Honorable Mr. Vice President, Mr. Speaker, Honorable members of the House of Representatives, Mr. Vice Premier of La Côte d'Ivoire and delegation, Your Excellency Mr. Ellen Johnson Sirleaf, former President of the Republic of Liberia, Madam President Pro Tempore, and members of the Honorable House of Senate, Mr. Acting Dean, the members of the President's Cabinet, Mr. Doyen, the members of the Diplomatic Corps, heads and representatives of international organizations, Mr. Guest Speaker, members of your delegation, heads of state-owned enterprises, Mr. Chief of Staff, officers, and personnel of the Armed Forces of Liberia, special guests, retired General Waldhausen, representing the United States Marine Corps, distinguished honorees, heads, officers, and personnel of paramilitary institutions, prelates, and members of the clergy, all other invited guests, our audience in radio and television land, members of the electronic and print media, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. On the 69th anniversary, on the occasion of the 69th anniversary of the Armed Forces of the Republic of Liberia, I have the honor at this time to present to you His Excellency Joseph Numa Boakai, Sr., President of the Republic of Liberia and Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces of the Republic. Mr. President.
Good morning, please have your seats. The Honorable Guest Speaker, distinguished members of the Legislature, esteemed members of the Judiciary, senior officers, members and women of the Armed Forces of Liberia, representatives of the Joint Security and other security apparatus, our international partners, fellow Liberians. On the solemn occasion of commemoration of this year's Armed Forces Day, we gather once again as one nation to pay tribute and to celebrate the gallantry of the men and women of Armed Forces of Liberia and our security institutions. This day is a reminder of sacrifices made and courage displayed and the unwavering commitment shown by our soldiers in defense of our sovereignty and democracy and our people. We want to thank all of those who have been honored. It's our way of saying thank you for all you've done to bring our country to where it is. It is also a day of reflection to honor the legacy of those who came before us and to renew our pledge to strengthen the armed forces. Our armed forces remain a pillar of stability, national honor. I usually say I avoid being with a man and a grudge. My fellow citizens, distinguished guests, the armed forces of Liberia have endured trials and emerged as a disciplined, professional institution. Yet, we must prepare for the future. In this regard, our government has taken action to address the challenges of high attrition rates and the natural aging of elements of our force. My government has taken several measures to promote the dignity and integrity of our men and women in arms. Beginning 2026, this year, the annual recruitment of 600 personnel into the Army, into the Armed Forces of Liberia, will commence and will run up to 2029. This recruitment drive is not just about numbers. It is about fashioning a force that reflects the diversity, resilience, and the aspiration of the Liberian people. This is a deliberate strategy to ensure that the AFL remains youthful, dynamic, and capable of responding to both traditional and emerging security threats. We recognize that the strength of our military lies not only in its training and equipment, but also in the physical and mental welfare of our personnel. In this addition to the recently renovated barracks in Monrovia and Nimba counties, my government will prioritize the renovation and restoration of the barracks in Bomi and Maryland counties. We must decongest the living quarters of our soldiers. The renovation is not intended to target anyone, but to offer decent housing to our soldiers and keep them fit and ready. This must be seen as a collective national duty. In this regard, the Ministry of National Defense will work with the Minister of State, Public Works, and other government line institutions to conduct an assessment on these facilities to begin renovation and all construction work. These projects are more than infrastructure. They are investment in dignity, guaranteeing that our soldiers and their families live in safe, decent, and supportive environment. A soldier who is dignified at home would defend our nation abroad. Military service often comes with invisible wounds. Trauma, stress, psychological challenges affect not only the individual soldier, but also their families and commitments. It is in this view that we extend our deepest appreciation to ECOWAS for its initial contribution towards constructing and operationalizing a mental health facility at the 14th Military Hospital. This facility represents a new frontier in our commitment to the well-being of our troops. My government pledges to ensure that the facility is completed and fully operational, serving only the AFL but also a wider Liberian population. By addressing mental health, we have affirmed that resilience is not physical but also psychological. A strong military is one that is prepared in mind as much as in body. Fellow Liberians, the future of the armed forces must be inclusive. We are proud to acknowledge and appreciate the support of SCS Foundation, which has committed funds to solely for the purpose of increasing female parity within the AFL. This should not be mistaken for being merely symbolic. It is transformative. Women bring unique perspective, skills, and strength to the military. Their presence enriches the institution and shows that the AFL reflects the full potential of our nation. We will continue to create pathways for women to serve, lead, and excel in every aspect of the military life. May I remind you and proudly to announce that my defense minister is female in this position. Liberia's security is inseparable from the security of West Africa. We extend heartfelt appreciation to you, Honorable Keynote Speaker, Major General Wadi Shaibu, Chief of Army Staff of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, and your delegation. It is firmly in the history that Nigeria has stood with Liberia both in times of trial and triumph, offering solidarity, expertise, and friendship. Your support reinforces the teaching that peace is one nation, strengthen peace in the region. Together, we stand as partners against the challenges of instability, terrorism, and transnational threats. Liberia remains committed to regional cooperation, knowing that our collective strength is greater than the sum of our individual efforts. To the capstone program of the National Defense University of the United States of America, General Thomas D. Wasser's officer and delegation, Liberia remains ever grateful for your participation in the 69 Armed Forces Day celebration. Your attendance is not only a testament of long-standing traditional diplomatic relations that our both countries enjoy, but it also represents the United States' commitment to safeguarding the peace and security in Liberia and West African region. Fellow Liberians, invited guests, as we celebrate Armed Forces Day, let us remember that the men and women in uniform are not only defenders of our border, but they are defenders of our future. They are defenders of our sovereignty. They embody discipline, sacrifice, and patriotism. To our soldiers, officers, and all members of the security institutions, Liberia salutes you. Your courage inspires us. Your sacrifice strengthens us, and your service unites us. Let us as a nation continue to support the armed forces of Liberia with resources, respect, and recognition they deserve, for in their strength lies our peace. God bless our nation, protect our men and women in arms, and save our state. Thank you.
Please be seated. The commander of troops will now request permission from the commander-in-chief to conduct the pass in review. Ladies and gentlemen, the commander of troops is now marching to request permission from His Excellency Mr. President, who is being proxied by the Chief of Staff, Armed Forces of Liberia. Permission granted. Ladies and gentlemen, once more, to be a soldier is to represent the best of our nation. It is to embody selfless service, to strive in the hardship and sacrifice of an elite warrior class, to maneuver toward the sound of guns, and to ably shoulder heritage created by those who have gone before us. The commander of troops is now preparing his troops for the pass in review. The commander of troops for today's Armed Forces Day parade is Lieutenant Colonel Stephen Timothy Powell, Commander, 1st Infantry Battalion, 23rd Infantry Brigade. He holds a Master of Science degree in Defense and International Politics from the Ghana Institute of Management and Public Administration. Other members of the Commander of Troops staff include Captain Eloshus T. Quay, the Adjutant, Captain. Ladies and gentlemen, please stand as the President moves to the viewing stand for the pass in review. Ladies and gentlemen, there comes the Commander of Troops. He now renders a hand salute to the Commander-in-Chief. Please be seated. Please be seated. Ladies and gentlemen, there comes the Armed Forces of Liberia band, colorfully dressed. A salute is rendered to His Excellency Mr. President. Commanding 2nd Infantry Battalion is Major Henry Joe Jr. Commanding Alpha Company is First Lieutenant Jeff G. Bowen. The flag bearer is Sergeant Numba Sima, and the First Sergeant is Staff Sergeant Jefferson Barkley. Commanding Bravo Company is First Lieutenant Josiah K. Innes Jr. The flag bearer is Sergeant Buckeye M. Masakwe, and the First Sergeant is Staff Sergeant Archibald Benedict. Commanding the Liberia Coast Guard is Lieutenant Junior Grade Bleeding Heron. The First Sergeant is P01 John C. Cooper, and the flag bearer is P03 Nice William. Commanding the Logistics Company is First Lieutenant Jeremiah Wallace. The First Sergeant is First Sergeant Augustus Rouge, and the flag bearer is Corporal Vanny. Commanding the Medical Command is Second Lieutenant Doris Lusu Sano. The First Sergeant is Staff Sergeant Emmanuel Livingstone, and the flag bearer is Private Mutima Mulba. Ladies and gentlemen, please stand for the passing of the colors. Commanding the Armed Forces Training Command is First Lieutenant Emmanuel Wazer Mulba. Please be seated. Commanding the paramilitary staff is Chief Inspector of Police Princess D. Bavo. Commanding the Liberia National Police is Superintendent Danieline S. Pade. The flag bearer is Patrolman Rebecca Kofa, and the First Sergeant is Patrolman Liliana T. Ria. Commanding the Liberia Immigration Service is Chief Inspector Patrick W. Doe. The flag bearer is Inspector Abigail Dober, and the First Sergeant is Inspector Kelvin Towie. Commanding the Liberia Revenue Authority Customs Department is Officer Sam S. Cooper. The flag bearer is Officer Aaron J. Johnson, and the First Sergeant is Officer Charles J. Zuba. Commanding the Liberia National Fire Service is Major Emmanuel Parker. The flag bearer is Captain Jerry DJ, and the First Sergeant is Captain Mimi J. Wisse. Commanding the Liberia Drugs Enforcement Agency is Agent George S. Tier. The First Sergeant is Agent Vanny K. Thomas, and the flag bearer is Darmalene Harris. Commanding the Monrovia City Police is Lieutenant Diana K. Pay. The flag bearer is Sergeant Patience Doma, and the first sergeant is Sergeant Gladys M. Wuse. Commanding the Bureau of Corrections is Sergeant Momo J. Ray. The flag bearer is Inspector Minnie W. Toh, and the first sergeant is Inspector Vasco Momo. Commanding the Liberia Seaport Police is Patrolman Eastman Crowd II. The flag bearer is Patrolman William T. Kakula, and the first sergeant is Patrolman Grace B. Jar. Commanding the Peaceville City Police is Sergeant Nathan T. Quinier. The flag bearer is Sergeant Julian Colley, and the Sergeant Major is Officer Ferris Popa. Commanding the Environmental Protection Agency is Inspector General Ara Bayama Brown. Commanding the Forestry Development Authority Park Rangers is Officer Joseph Saki. The flag bearer is Officer Sando T. Bakwe. Ladies and gentlemen, the Liberia Scout Association is commanded by Scout Master Abraham Howard. The flag bearer is Alex Malba, and the first sergeant is Christopher J. Blamu. Ladies and gentlemen, there comes a Bob Cat. Those are our future military personnel. Yeah. Ladies and gentlemen, this concludes the 69th Armed Forces Day Parade. And on behalf of His Excellency Joseph Yuma Boakai, President of the Republic of Liberia and Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces of Liberia, the Honorable Minister of National Defense, Brigadier General Geraldine George, retired, and the Chief of Staff of the Armed Forces of Liberia, Major General Davison Fayafole, I thank you for gracing this occasion with your presence. Ladies and gentlemen, as you can see, His Excellency is going to take a look to inspect the first harvest from the Armed Forces of Liberia Agricultural Company. The first harvest from the Armed Forces of Liberia Agricultural Company. Several bags of rice. Ladies and gentlemen, please be seated. Please be seated. Please be seated. Through the directive of His Excellency, Mr. President, the Armed Forces of Liberia Agricultural Company was activated. The mission of the company is to assist in food security, and the company has produced its first harvest. Ladies and gentlemen, His Excellency, Mr. President, is greeting his guests. Ladies and gentlemen, His Excellency, Mr. President, continues to greet invited guests as well as present informal officials of government. Ladies and gentlemen, please remain in your position as His Excellency, Mr. President, departs the parade ground.